I want to point towards the crisis in the DRC, which is also going to affect the AU election. Because you know the Congolese burnt down our embassy and trashed it in Kinshasa. Kagame, who's part of East Africa, doesn't believe we're an honest broker in the discussions in the Great Lakes. Ethiopia has come out since yesterday saying that they're not sure about Mr. Odinga.
You cannot compare Kenya to Djibouti in terms of location, in terms of diplomatic leverage.
So why did you come here?
You listen to Ahmed.
Stay home.
It is theories. You listen to Dr. Juang, he'll drop in a bit of practicality.
You'll have the right to reply. You'll have the right to reply.
We have I'm not calling him a pseudo. If we call him a pseudo MP.
Hang on.
Well, just come on.
Pseudo academic.
No, you're a pseudo MP.
Yeah, so keep quiet.
No, you keep quiet.
Raila is a pan-Africanist. And that, even the Djibouti people will tell you, Raila is a leader who has stood for something which is beyond Kenya, but is known across the world. In terms of the matters you are discussing, if you asked even, President Trump, yes, what do you think of Raila? He'll tell you something about, Raila, not Yusuf. And in my view, this is the leader we need for the African Union Commission now.
Kenya's African Union Commission, AUC chairmanship candidate, Raila Odinga, and the government have often expressed confidence in his bid, asserting that he is poised to win the race. Raila will compete against Djibouti's Mahamoud Ali Yusuf and Madagascar's Richard Randriamandrado on February 15th to 16th, 2025. Despite the government's confidence in Raila's victory, governance analyst Ahmed Hashi has expressed doubt about Raila's chances of winning the highly anticipated AUC chair election. Speaking on one of the national TV here in Kenya on Wednesday, February 12th, Hashi outlined key reasons why Raila is unlikely to secure the AUC seat. He first argued that the security crisis in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, DRC, would undermine Raila's chances of winning the election. Hashi noted that Congolese protesters burned down Kenya's embassy after Goma fell to M23 rebels. His second reason for believing Raila could fail was that Rwandan President Paul Kagame allegedly does not consider Kenya a credible mediator in Great Lakes region discussions. The governance analyst also claimed that Ethiopia has expressed uncertainty about Kenya's former prime minister being a strong candidate for the AUC chair position. He also pointed out Raila's alleged limited support in North Africa, citing Egypt's endorsement of Djibouti's candidate despite Raila and President William Ruto's visit and discussions with Egyptian President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi. He stated that he believes Madagascar's candidate and the former Mauritius candidate will support Djibouti, as they are also part of the Francophone group. Hashi said he believes Kenya's candidate will face a difficult challenge in the upcoming election, predicting that he will lose. Here is how the interview went down. Watch.
This is the second time Kenya is making a go at the AUC, chairperson's, seat, and Kenya, I think, has made a spirited effort to make its case, within the African continent. Now, it is clearly that even though there are three candidates right now running, I think the front runners, is the Kenya's candidate, former Prime Minister Raila Odinga, and Djibouti. Now, is the campaign sufficient? Of course, that is going to be left to be seen, in a few days. But I think to the extent that Kenya has tried to make a case, you cannot discount it. Perhaps someone may say that this should have started much earlier. But either way, if you compare the amount of efforts put in by Djibouti and Kenya, then you cannot say Kenya has not done enough. Now, of course, the other complexities that are going, of course, to determine the final outcome. One, you have the geopolitical, aspect that, for instance, the aspects that, Djibouti enjoys naturally as a member of the Francophone, despite the declining French influence of the continent, but also as a member of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, as well as a member of the Arab League. But Nairobi seems to be very confident that they could be having upwards of around 30 votes. Now, if that stays like that and last-minute calls to a number of capitals, stays the same, then there's a likelihood that they may have a good showing, if not overall, at least in the first round, of this voting.
How much does one need to clinch?
I think it's two-thirds.
Two-thirds.
So we are talking about 32?
Yes.
Okay. In the first round, if you are that now secure the win.
We are cautiously optimistic, and that was one lesson that was clear, that it's not over until it's over. However, it appears that the Muslim states are more pushing towards the deputy. And with the principle of equity and fairness, it appears that then it leaves former Prime Minister as the main contender for the chairmanship. Because I could see a lot of endorsement also for the deputy. And down here, none of this East African bloc or our allies are producing a deputy, which means that it appears there is a settled arrangement that the East side bring the chair and then
North side.
Yeah, a gentleman's deputy agreement, so to speak. I think there is every reason to believe that if there is anyone who should be more optimistic, of course it's a race, it's Kenya. Kenya have done a lot of geopolitical relations. In the north, the president has visited and have spoken to quite a number of the countries there. In Central, we have seen a few endorsements, central part of Africa. The East Africa, which now is chaired by the President Ruto, appears to be a bloc supporting Raila. The West Africa, he has serious allies, including Nigeria. We are seeing Ghana coming and supporting him. We saw the president of Guinea, I think it was Guinea. We have seen Raila in Cote d'Ivoire. Equatorial Guinea. We have seen him in Algeria, Senegal, and all that. I think there is all likelihood that he will win. Okay. And there is all likelihood that this campaign this time has been done with the lessons of Amina failure. Okay. And therefore very optimistic. Okay. And it is the right call for Africa. Okay. Because if you look at the mandate and the 12 functions of that office, Prime Minister Raila pushing for that will be a game changer and renaissance or rebirth or baptism. Okay. Rebaptism for Africa. Okay. Finally, I see Kenyans and the people are pushing for that because they know what that means for Africa, having that visibility and having a situation where you can push for the candidate and, of course, leaving no one behind.
All right.
The great Irish poet, Seamus Heaney, quipped once that you can start with hope, and even if it's dashed, you still have to have hope. I think that the configuration of the last 60 days with the election of Donald Trump as the president of the United States and the spat that's going on with South Africa and the United States over issues of apartheid and racism is now going to come to bear even further to the elections of the African Union, I believe. I think that's a very critical part that we have to look at. The Americans used to stay out of the African Union business, but I think Trump is going to put pressure on some of the states in the African Union to change their vote. Remember last time when Amina Mohammed was running, the Uganda vote went to the candidate from Chad.
Musa Faki Mahamat.
Yes, and they had stood with us as the East African bloc. I mean, this is just a fact. You can fact check that. So I think that all this stuff about getting endorsements from certain states is going to come to naught, because I think our candidate is facing a tremendous amount of bulwark. Remember, 4 months ago I was here with you, Mr. Ayub, and I said that he's not going to win, and that the Francophone countries, the Sahel, the Muslim AUC organization, which has endorsed the candidate from Djibouti, and the international community were going to come and really take on Mr. Odinga for the African Union. And I also want to point towards the crisis in the DRC, which is also going to affect the AU election. Because you know the Congolese burnt down our embassy and trashed it in Kinshasa. Kagame, who's part of East Africa, doesn't believe we're an honest broker in the discussions in the Great Lakes. Ethiopia has come out since yesterday saying that they're not sure about Mr. Odinga. To nail the coffin on North Africa, Mr. Odinga went to Egypt with the president. He was given a red carpet treatment. And right after that, Egypt endorsed the Djibouti candidate. So I think it's an uphill task, and I'm going to keep my statement from 4 months ago. I believe that even the candidate from Madagascar and Mauritius are going to line up behind Djibouti, because they're also from the Francophone group. I think our candidate has a very tough time. I think he's going to lose in the second round of voting.
Let me say, Raila's campaigns have gone very well. In fact, it has been one of the best. I don't know a single head of state in Africa who has not been met or asked for votes. I really do not know this single state Raila has not visited, either alone or with the president. And so if we were to look at it in terms of campaigns, in terms of the vision, he has, Raila's ideals. Sit with Raila even for 5 minutes when we do so, and he'll very easily jump out of Kenya to talk about what would benefit another country in Africa. His knowledge about African states, their history and continents is quite deep. And by the way, when he talks about it, it is not something artificial. It is also not something he's starting during this time is bidding to chair the African Union Commission. But he's somebody who understands Africa very well. Raila has served as the High Representative in charge of infrastructure in Africa. Raila has a history in Kenya initially, as an opposition leader, at times also as a government official, Minister for Energy. The reforms he brought when he was in the Ministry of Energy. In fact, people forget. But these things like REREC, Rural Electrification Program, and these are the electricity infrastructure, lighting up Kenya, were his vision. What Raila did thereafter as the Minister for Roads and Infrastructure. And Ayub, our young people again forget. Yeah. But if you see the bypasses in Nairobi, if you see Thika Road, people now forget that these were done during Raila's time. And people forget that even at the time, Raila was coming up with the idea of doing the Thika Road to do all it, so that people can, enter town easily and leave, town after business back to their, areas of residences. So many people from, along that road sued Raila in court. And at that time, Raila was demolishing their properties, all over. Today, of course, you'll hear accolade to President Kibaki, taking away the fact that these were the ideas of Raila. You see the impact of the expressway, and they were all designed at that time. So I want to say that in that history, Ayub, Raila has built, networks. You see how comfortable he is when he meets the heads of states. and presidents. They're essentially peers. For the first time, Professor Juang will tell you that the matter of who becomes the AUC chairperson is being discussed globally. I mean, we had elections last time. It was never an issue. Even our great media station, Citizen, I don't know when it was debated.
We had a comprehensive discussion and coverage around it.
Maybe one and off. But for the first time, you see the world gripped. And you see Ahmed saying, even Trump may be interested. All regions of Africa are pushing an interest. And this does not speak merely to AUC.
Okay.
But it speaks to the clout of the person called Raila Odinga, and the impact it takes in. So to answer your question straight, I want to signal my gratitude to people, whether Kenyans across Africa and across the world, who have stood with Raila in this bid for his vision. And in that regard, let me thank, in a very utmost way, the President of the Republic of Kenya. To support a person you just competed with in the manner he has is something to appreciate.
All right.
And people keep importing politics. But I can tell you, to me, he has done well. And whatever happens, and I'm saying whatever happens, because ultimately it is our desire and optimism that Prime Minister Raila Odinga wins this bid.
Thank you.
But I'm saying whatever happens, because it is still an election. We hope for the best, but we remain, eternally grateful in gratitude.